Hello everybody, it's your boy Proftrof and we're back again with another video by Ahoy. We're doing the Glock as y'all wanted. And we'll see which video of theirs is suggested by YouTube. P90. So we're doing the Glock and the P90. Let's get to it. I'm not a big fan of the Glock, don't like it too much, okay?
I've got to be honest, this is kind of a boring weapon. Design-wise, it's ugly.
True.
A couple of rectangles overlapped, like a gun drawn by a child. And yet, for some reason, it's quite popular.
It works, brother. It works.
The Glock, a polymer-framed pistol hailing from Austria, and perhaps the most successful of the Wonder Nines. So, how did an obscure Austrian plastic manufacturer have such an impact on the arms industry? What was so special about Glock's design? And are they really invisible to X-rays?
1.6, baby. God, I've not played 1.6 in so long.
During World War II, Austria's service pistol was the Walther P38, a perfectly serviceable semi-auto pistol, and it retained its role for some time after the war. However, by the late 1970s, there were better alternatives,
Why see
and the
somebody
Austrian
does? I
armed
see
forces
some Makarovs.
began seeking a replacement
I don't know what the rest is.
pistol in 1980. The most likely contender at this time was the Steyr GB, designed in 1968 and boasting some novel features, but it faced stiff competition from other European manufacturers such as Beretta and Sig Sauer.
6 Sauer.
But surely the Austrians would select a homegrown weapon, and Steyr were pretty much the only Austrian arms manufacturer going.
Okay.
It was a shoo-in. However, there was an outsider. A man named Gaston Glock.
Gaston Glock.
He was the founder of a small manufacturing company based in Deutsche Wagram that made polymer products, originally curtain rods and doorknobs. By the late 1970s, Glock had found a niche.
Oh, originally what?
Curtain rods manufacturing company based in Deutsche Wagram that made polymer products, originally curtain rods and doorknobs.
Explains the Glocks, looks.
By the late 1970s, Glock had found a niche in products for the military,
Chabot.
entrenching tools, knives, and disintegrating links. They'd never made any firearms before, but when Glock caught wind of the upcoming tender for a replacement pistol, he decided to design his own. He was guided by the standard set by the Austrian Ministry of Defense. The new weapon had to be a 9mm semi-auto, high capacity, ambidextrous, drop safe, easy to maintain, and of simple
So they want it to be self-loading, 919 NATO, 8+ round capacity, ambidextrous,
drop safe, easy to maintain, and of simple interchangeable construction.
58 components or fewer. Which gun has more than that? Jesus Christ.
Unhindered by any preconception or existing tooling, this was an entirely new pistol designed to an exacting specification. He called it the Glock 17, as it was his 17th invention.
Oh.
That its magazine capacity was 17 rounds was serendipity. In 1982, Glock submitted his handgun design to the Austrian military for testing, where it would be up against heavyweights such as Sig Sauer's P220 and 226, H&K's P7, and the Beretta 90.
What is that gun, brother? I don't think I've seen that shit before. And I know I said the Glock is ugly, but look at that little thing in the middle. Nah, brother. Yikes.
The prize was an order of 25,000 units.
25k?
And somehow, the rank outsider clinched it. Glock's design proved its capability, outperforming all of its rivals. Now, the Americans had just settled on the Beretta, so news of a hitherto unknown name in firearms beating established manufacturers was surprising to say the least. There was concern that the high-capacity magazine would prove useful for criminals, and that the plastic frame...
Okay, last week the National Rifle Association took a small step forward and the Justice Department took a big step backward. At issue was proposed legislation to prohibit the manufacture, sale, or import of plastic guns, the kind that are lethal weapons but don't show up on metal detectors at airports and other security checkpoints. These guns are not yet available, but domestic manufacturers are at work developing the product. and they could hit the market within the year. There's only one logical reason for producing a non-metal gun, that is so a lethal weapon can be concealed. Is that really the only reason? The only reason so it can be concealed through metal detectors? I don't think that is the only reason, to be honest. Brought into a place where elaborate systems have been set up to keep guns out and used to threaten or kill innocent people. It's tailor-made for terrorists.
Would be invisible on airport X-ray machines. It was described as tailor-made for terrorists. However, most of these fears were unfounded. The metal components of the Glock are still quite recognizable as a firearm, and by now, high-capacity weapons were the norm. Eventually, the resistance to the Glock dissipated. After all, you can't keep a good design down, and more police and military forces realized the Glock's potential, with the weapon seeing rapid adoption throughout the 1990s. The plastic pistol from Austria was ready for the silver screen. Die Hard 2 wasn't the first film the Glock made an appearance in, but it's probably the first memorable one. The fictional Glock 7 is described as a porcelain gun made in Germany that doesn't show up on your airport X-ray machines and costs more than what you make in a month. The quote is wrong on almost every count.
Okay, not very accurate. First off, the Glock's not Glock 7, it's a 17. It's not porcelain, it's plastic. It's not German, it's Austria. It's not expensive, it's modestly priced.
But the gun was new, and it was cool.
Huh?
As its popularity surged, the Glock became an increasingly common sight, often seen in the hands of fictional law enforcement, such as in RoboCop 3, The Fugitive, and Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Beverly Hills
Fellow Austrian Arnold Schwarzenegger was reportedly a fan, and the Glock makes an appearance in True Lies, Eraser, and End of Days. Even the word Glock itself became a byword for firepower, a frequent reference in gangster rap, such as Ice-T's OG Original Gangster, Dr. Dre's Let Me Ride, and Ice Cube's You Know How We Do It. Right from the start, the pistol has refused stereotype. Civilian, police, military, terrorist, gangbanger. The Glock is for everyone. This universal appeal was helped by a large number of variants, model numbers starting with the 17 and ascending. The Glock 18, a fully automatic machine pistol, the 19 with compact frame, 20 made for the hard-hitting 10mm auto round,
what?
21
10mm
frame, 20 made for the hard-hitting 10mm auto round, 21 in 45 ACP, the 22, 23 and 24 in 40 Smith & Wesson, the 25 in 380 ACP.
There is a Glock in everything. Is there a 50 cal Glock? Is there? Come on, we need it. I mean, you have it and everything else. Why not a 50 cal?
And the 26, a subcompact Glock in 9mm, ideal for concealed carry. The list goes on. A whole range of calibers, a whole range of sizes. Despite some issues with the earlier 40 cal models, mostly a consequence of hotter than usual rounds, Glock's original design has proven quite adaptable. And today, the pistol for everyone is everywhere. Naturally, this means they're a popular choice for video games, and the Glock is one of the more attainable weapons within a typical arsenal. However, being a pistol, it's often sidelined to a secondary role, a backup to your SMG or assault rifle. It's not a glamorous job, but such is the pistol's lot.
Somebody's gotta do it.
But in the early days of the FPS, lower-ranking weapons within the power hierarchy got their share of attention by being the first weapons you got to play with.
True.
This coincides with the Glock's rapid rise in popularity during the late 90s. So, early appearances in games like Duke Nukem 3D and Half-Life aren't too surprising. As more realistic games took hold, we started
SWAT for this game was amazing.
to see a reflection of the Glock's popularity with law enforcement and military units. Games like SWAT 4, the Delta Force and Rainbow Six series all feature the Glock in some
form. I played
form.
this as a kid as well.
Of course, it's not always called the Glock in games. It is a commercial trademark, so it's often changed to avoid legal trouble. Most often, the Glock 17 will be known as the G17, or perhaps as one of its military designations. In some cases where firearms are less of a focus, it might be entirely generic, the 9mm pistol or similar. There's no mistaking its boxy exterior, though. The Glock's familiarity is its key distinction. The entire Glock lineup is broadly similar. They all look and behave in pretty much the same way. But there is one exception. The forbidden Glock 18.
It's forbidden?
It is disproportionately popular in games, probably because it's more interesting and exciting than the semi-automatic pistols it resembles. In gameplay terms, it fills an interesting role that not many other recognizable weapons can.
Wait, what's this game?
Play terms, it fills an interesting role that not many other recognizable weapons can.
This multiplayer?
A pocket-sized auto, seldom controllable, but always quite good fun. The Akimbo Glocks from Modern Warfare 2 are a particularly memorable example. They were surprisingly effective, even without the ability to aim. So as dull as pistols can be, there's something to like about the Glock. A utilitarian charm. It's just a gun. It's just a gun that does its job extraordinarily well. It's lost its exotic edge. No longer is it the plastic European wonder that changed America's outlook on handguns. But it's matured into a modern classic that might just outlast us all.
Maybe.
So, welcome to the default option. A versatile pistol with
the default option.
Broad appeal. It's true, there are better looking weapons out there, and some more suited to specific roles. But there's a Glock good enough for everyone. Besides, sometimes ugly is beautiful, and sometimes boring is exactly what you need.
If it works,
the Glock.
It works.
Neutral. Universal. Perfect. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.
Okay, before we go on to the P90, what do y'all think about the Glock? What do y'all think? Has anyone shot a Glock? I really want to shoot a Glock. The Glock seems like it will not have much recoil. Looks like it'll be one of those easy to control guns. It looks like a good handgun to have. It's not really, you know, ooh, look at my Glock. My Glock is amazing. But I mean, it's a Glock. Pew pew, motherfucker.
The future is uncertain.
P90.
Nobody really knows what lies around the...
Bro, when you use this thing in Counter-Strike, it feels like it's a piece of shit, right? Like, you need to put like 10 bullets in somebody to kill them. Or if you're not a headshot, maybe more even, if they have body armor. In real life, this thing fucking shreds. It shreds.
Corner. But there's never any harm in being well prepared. The P90.
Amazing.
An odd-looking weapon with some equally unusual traits. So, what prompted the need for a new breed of SMGs? What was the P90's key rival, and how did it fare? And how do you cram 50 rounds into such a small package?
Okay. Wait. Break? Oh no.
The MP5 was king. Since its introduction in the 1960s, no other submachine gun came close to HK.
It's in the 1960s? Jesus Christ.
Offering. And while expensive, if you wanted the best, you bought German. However, the SMG was in danger of becoming obsolete. The development of Kevlar armor in the 1970s and its subsequently increasing availability raised concerns amongst military and police units. SMGs had to adapt. They needed the ability to defeat body armor whilst retaining their compact size. A new class of weapon, part SMG, part carbine. The personal defense weapon. In 1986, Belgian firearm manufacturer FN Stahl put their expertise to task. A new weapon designed from the ground up.
Jeez, it looks so
to fit the PDW role, it had to be compact. So, a bullpup configuration was the logical choice, with the magazine feed point located behind the trigger. However, unlike most bullpups, the magazine is inserted at the top of the weapon and lies parallel to the barrel instead of the more conventional perpendicular arrangement. This required a crafty bit of engineering to rotate the cartridges ready for feeding. A spiral ramp integrated into the magazine, with the rounds pushed into the correct orientation as they're fed by the spring.
So that's
The
how it
magazine's
works.
translucent polymer construction also means you can see how many rounds remain at all times. In fact, the entire weapon makes extensive use of polymers, reducing both cost and weight. Although the ergonomics are unusual, they are carefully considered. It has an integrated reflex sight, and all controls are ambidextrous, with the weapon even ejecting spent cases downwards.
Wow.
However, despite all its high-tech features, the most interesting aspect is the cartridge it fires.
Yes.
The FN 5.7 by 28mm round,
It's fucking
designed
weird.
specifically for the weapon. Unlike typical pistol cartridges with squat form and rounded tip, this new caliber resembles a miniature rifle round, with Spitzer point and a higher relative charge. This means that while the projectile is small, a quarter of the mass of a typical 9mm round,
Hey, it means that it doesn't matter if it's small, it does the job, okay? Not every time the small thing is at a disadvantage. Sometimes you need something small to do the job, okay? I'm still talking about guns. I'm
it travels
still
over
talking about
twice as
guns.
fast. More energy over a it travels over twice as fast.
Ooh.
More energy over a smaller area means greater penetrative force. And as a result, the 5.7mm is able to pierce body armor that would otherwise stop a typical SMG. By 1990, the project was complete. Hence the name given to the weapon, the FN Project 90,
Oh,
the P90.
that's where it got the name? Really?
It was
Legit?
compact, less than a shoulder's width, lightweight thanks to its modern materials, with high-capacity magazines and that all-important armor-piercing capability. FN had one seriously impressive weapon on offer. All they had to do now was get people to use it.
That's all.
If they could gain NATO's approval, the subsequent contracts would be extraordinarily lucrative, so there was no shortage of incentive to meet their needs.
Okay.
The original SS-90 ammunition was designed with a plastic core, but in 1993 a revision was needed in response to NATO CRISAT specification. Was needed in response to NATO
Collaborative research into small arms technology.
CRISAT specification.
Oh, okay.
Any PDW for consideration needed to be able to penetrate 1.6mm of titanium plate,
Okay.
along with 20 layers of Kevlar, at a distance of at least 150 meters.
20 layers of Kevlar. Wait, how much layers of Kevlar does a normal body armor have? I don't know these things.
In order to achieve this, FN added a composite core to the bullet, steel-tipped with aluminium rear. And these revised SS-190 rounds could tackle the required level of armor even beyond 200 meters. NATO's requirements also prompted the development of a complementary pistol firing the same caliber,
I love
the
this
FN 5.7. Altogether, FN had the perfect package for modern close-quarter operations. But it wasn't long before they had a rival.
Wait, who?
Meanwhile, Heckler and Koch were stuck in a bureaucratic mire.
Who?
Meanwhile, Heckler and Koch were
Heckler.
stuck in a bureaucratic mire. The German reunification had slashed available defense budgets, forcing them to abandon the ambitious G11 project in favor of the more conventional G36. It was only after Germany's new service rifle was realized that H&K could finally invest in something new.
MP9?
A rival to the P90,
Yep.
come to defend the throne.
This thing is good as
The
well.
MP7.
Oh, 7. Yeah, not 9.
Now, there were two key contenders, and by 2002, NATO were ready to proceed with tests.
Shit.
Both weapons share similar traits: compact and firing a small, high-velocity cartridge designed to defeat armor.
Okay.
The MP7's round was a little less powerful, and its magazine's lower capacity. But the ergonomics did more closely resemble a conventional weapon, and the platform was more flexible, with better support for rail-mounted accessories. In the end, the Belgian 5.7mm won by a significant margin. It was more mature, already had suitable PDW and pistol designs, and it performed better against armor.
It's more mature.
However, the Germans vetoed its adoption.
Oh?
And so, with no consensus, there would be no standard NATO PDW caliber, nor a nominated weapon. Today, the P90...
So Germany was triggered that they didn't win? Is that how this is? Is this it? Is this the reason?
and MP7 both see use amongst police and special forces units all over the world.
That's a lot of flags, brother.
A shared victory, but proof, at least, that SMGs still remain relevant.
True.
Beyond the real world, the odd appearance of the P90 also made it...
It wasn't fuck those police. I watched it. What was it called? The two cops.
a desirable choice for television and film.
What was that movie called?
After all, it looks like it came straight out of science fiction.
Kinda, yeah.
Perhaps this is why it was chosen as a key weapon in the Stargate SG-1 television series.
What?
The P90 was new and thus unfamiliar to most. It's clearly a human design, but there's something otherworldly about it. It also found its way into the hands of the armourers behind the Bond films of the late 90s, appearing quite prominently in The World Is Not Enough. It is, after all, a high-tech gadget, understated, yet powerful, a mirror of James Bond's suave demeanour. The Bond franchise's video games were performing quite well around this time too, courtesy of the success of Rare's GoldenEye 007, which featured its own interpretation of the P90. It isn't the most accurate rendition of the weapon, but it is one of the earliest. From here, it would quickly become a regular sight in games, especially in those with a focus on realistic weapons. Whether practical or not, any realistic military shooter worth its salt has to have the latest gear. Newer weapons have a certain novelty factor that makes them interesting, although this is never a guarantee of real-world success, as both the OICW and XM8 will attest. There was a risk of the P90 fading into obscurity for a while, but the successful NATO tests and increasing real-world use of the weapon meant that it outlived its time as a gimmick weapon, and has since become a staple SMG in many an FPS lineup. And so, instead of sci-fi, the P90 now looks more at home in the hands of special forces. It's a common part of the loadout seen in Call of Duty and Battlefield, and its close-range function obvious. Regular appearance has meant that the unusual has become familiar, and also a favourite.
Sure.
It's an easy weapon to like. One consistent trait across all its depictions is the colossal 50-round magazine, a pocket LMG. It's not without corresponding downside. The per-shot damage is never the greatest, particularly at longer ranges, and sometimes the reloads or other handling aspect in-game can be slow. However, with the typically high rate of fire you'd expect from an SMG, the P90's ability to dispense rounds quickly is remarkable, making for quite a forgiving weapon to use.
Oh, god damn it.
In some cases, Counter-Strike Global Offensive being one notable example, this can lead to the P90 being seen as a weapon for the less experienced, a reckless tool for rushing headlong. Still, even in the hands of noobs, it's a hard weapon to dislike, and in its relatively short lifespan, the odd-looking SMG has found more favour than haters.
Xbox Ahoy.
After all, establishing a new weapon both as a viable tool for combat and a cultural touchstone is no mean feat. FN's foresight helped ensure that the P90 was in the right place at the right time, and its unconventional appearance meant that no one would forget. It might be impossible to know what the future holds, but you'll know it when you see it. It might not have enjoyed a decisive victory over its rival, but its bold design certainly made an impression. And an evolutionary step for small arms, a notice to the incumbent king that their reign had come to an end. The P90. Future vision. Exotic caliber. Kingslayer. Thank you very much for watching. Iconic Arms will return. But until next time, farewell.
Hey, listen, I don't know how good the P90 is IRL. I know it's very good. All I know is that when I get this shit in Tarkov, I feel like a god, okay? Recoil is low, ammo is amazing. Biggest problem, it costs a motherfucking leg and an arm, okay? But when you loot off somebody, you feel like a god. Low recoil, good. Ammo does shit. Very fast fire rate as well. I feel like a god. And it's not as bad from range for some reason. There's an SMG, you think it after like 50-100 meters be like trash. It ain't though. It ain't. What y'all think about the P90 and the Glock? Let me know in the comments and I'll catch you next time, buddy. Have a nice day. Oh yeah, by the way, we'll be streaming some Apex Legends and Among Us later on, so come join me if you want to see some of that shit. I'll be playing with viewers as well, so if you want to play with me, come, I'll be doing that shit. I did a Minecraft video. I edited, spent a lot of time doing that shit, so check it out if you want to. Plus, a quick thank you to patrons: Pedro Martinez, Camasco, Rob, Barry, Swast, Refuse, Chicken, Stitches, Senior, Hilton, Lemon, Moonlight, My Dash, Ironic, Nala, James Bizone. Thank you all for the support, and have a nice day, everybody. Bye bye.